Well, they don't, because our political class will not let us have a say on this. You see, when the political class when the government gets something wrong, and it got Europe very badly wrong at a very early stage, and when it becomes blindingly obvious to everyone that the government got it wrong, and the entire governing class got it wrong, then it simply can't and won't admit its mistake. Why? Because although ministers come and go, the civil servants in the background, who are in favour of all this because if they want more pay and greater power, they can just go to Europe and get a European civil service job. They are all still in place. They are all untouched by whatever the people may think. And they don't want this change. They don't want to admit their mistake any more than they do on the climate thing. I only bring in the climate thing here as an illustration of how no longer does our governing class care whether it's getting things right or wrong. It doesn't even try to get them right. It simply governs purely for the sake of dismantling democracy. That's what's going on now. Piece by piece, step by step, they're taking democracy away. They're doing it largely by stealth. We still have elections. They don't mean anything. You can get a David Cameron or a David Miliband or whatever the other fellow's called. These people, they're all the same. They all stand for the same things. And realistically, the chance of UKIP becoming the largest party in British elections, that's still quite some way off, but it will come, step by step, as gradually the people of Britain, many of whom listen to your programme, hear people like me saying to them, we are not going to give up on you. It's not the whole governing class that has turned against you. We are going to speak for democracy, for freedom, for the right of you, the people, we, the people.
Yes. You know, many historians have pointed out that each generation faces a new form of tyranny, and it always looks different and is packaged different and smells different to a certain extent than the last one. And because people don't know history, they're doomed to repeat it. Whereas Lord Acton said power corrupts, or power tends to corrupt, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And there is no doubt with all of their taxes, their regulations, banning kids having balloons, outdoor space heaters, businesses, everything the euro does is pure tyranny. And now it's transferring publicly to an undemocratic thing, and our own media is praising it. I mean, it's Twilight Zone-ish to see this as they just normalize it. And now there's cracks in the facade. You have David Cameron. I mean, here's the headline. UK should stay in EU, says Cameron. He goes on to say he will not support, will try to block a referendum on UK membership of the European Union. Imagine, you go under something that makes your laws, and it's a bureaucracy that has a debating committee, but it's like our super Congress now with spending bills. They bring forward the bill, not an individual member. It's not debated. It's brought forward for an up or down vote, and if you don't pass it, then it just goes ahead and the super Congress passes it. It's like, you can rubber stamp this if you want, but if you don't, we're going ahead with it. I mean, this is like a Monty Python skit or something about a false democracy or false republic. And democracies are dangerous because people can vote for something bad, but you can have a republic that has democracy in it, but blocks excesses. This is the worst form, where it's just pure tyranny. So just to get this straight then, what is the magnitude of this? Because the former British Prime Minister, former Tory, John Major, says this will end UK sovereignty. It will transfer the financial system of London to Frankfurt. What is the full import of this? What does this say about the power structure in the UK that this is happening?
The first thing to say is that Frankfurt already controls the city of London. From the 1st of January last year, 2010, all control over the regulation of the City of London passed to the European Union. It did so more or less secretly. There are still quite a lot of people in the city who themselves don't realise who their new masters now are. But the City of London is already history. People are moving out. Large financial institutions are realising that they don't want to be in a City of London that's part of the European Union. They want to be outside it. They're moving to Geneva. And here's the thing, so many of them are now trying to move to Switzerland, which is in Europe but outside the European Union, has all the trading rights and freedoms, but none of the obligations and none of the political nonsense. It remains a democracy. They now have so many people from the City of London, major firms, trying to get out of Britain and get out of Europe, this new sinister dictatorship, and get into Switzerland instead, that the Swiss canton, where the financial centre in Switzerland is, has had to close its waiting list for applications from Britain to move in and set up business there. That's how fast people are now already realising that the City of London is finished. This great institution, which has been there trading successfully and freely for more than 600 years, has just gone through two of the worst decades for stock market performance since records first began more than 600 years ago.
So what Hitler was unable to do, the euro has now done.
That's right. They have taken power away from the City of London. And I remember I went and had breakfast with the Lord Mayor, this is about 20 years ago now, and he was urging me to write a leading article in the Evening Standard, for which I then set the editorial policy on these political matters.
Lord Monckton, I apologize for interrupting. Can you do 5 more minutes and finish this amazing story? Okay, great, because he's been... You see, tyrants in the 21st century have learned to come by stealth and through bureaucracies and regional governorships that destroy your local autonomy. Lord Monckton, sorry that you were interrupted by the break. You were getting into 20 years ago.
Yes, I had breakfast with the Lord Mayor in the Mansion House. Very nice breakfast it was too, just the two of us. And he was trying to urge me to write a leading article in the Evening Standard to advocate that the European Central Bank should be established in the United Kingdom. And I said, look, of course we're not going to put the central bank in the City of London because Britain won't be joining the euro. He said, what do you mean it won't be joining the euro? It won't be joining the European currency. I said, no, it won't. The people won't stand for that. We want to keep our currency, weak though it is. It's going to be better than what will happen to this pure political creation. And there's no way that I'm going to argue that anything from the European Union should be centred in the City of London. My advice to you is steer well clear. Well, he was rather baffled by this because, of course, the consensus among all the great and the good was that Europe was wonderful and could do no wrong. Now, the City of London is one of the major recruiting grounds for UKIP. We are raising a lot of money there. People have suddenly begun to wake up to just how dangerous this European project is. And in a way, there's enormous sadness because, of course, the City of London is the great international arm of the United Kingdom. We are not an island in the sense of the free market. We trade all over the world. The City of London is the centre of that trade. And we've always been outward-looking, internationalist, European-minded.
And I was reading in the last few years you've lost the #1 status.
Oh, by long since, yes, and we're losing it very, very quickly now that the decline is precipitate as people are desperate to get out from under the...
So the EU bureaucrats and the traders in your country have done a wonderful, devastating job. And they brought in tons of foreigners who aren't from the UK, so they don't care if you lose your sovereignty. So it's a wonderful plan.
Well, it's a great tragedy that this independent financial centre, which ran itself, no longer has the right to run itself. It has now been made subject to the European tyranny, which is very rapidly tightening its grip and closing it down. After all, the European Union didn't want to have to compete with the City of London. If you add all the other currencies of Europe together, including the euro, it's tiny compared with the sterling area and the vast amount of sterling currency in issue. And so they have always wanted to shut the City of London down, to remove a source of competition, to remove also a symbol of freedom, because this was what Hitler always was trying to do. It was to take away all symbols of freedom so that people gradually forgot what freedom is, no longer realized they could have freedom and how wonderful it is, and became comfortable with dictatorship. That's what's being attempted here. That's why the likes of David Cameron are saying, no, we're not going to give the British people a say on the future of Britain, on the central question of whether Britain shall...
Is there a way to recall him? Because that is such a naked, arrogant, anti-sovereign, anti-choice issue. Regardless of what...
All we've got is the three major political parties, the Conservatives, the Labour, and to a much lesser extent, the so-called Liberal Democrats, who are neither liberal nor democratic. These people all of them think the European Union is wonderful, dictatorship is marvellous, tyranny is where we want to go. And so whoever you vote for, unless you do vote for UKIP, you're not going to be voting for freedom. Now, the thing is, what UKIP's difficulty, of course, is that it is still seen, quite wrongly, as a one-issue party that only is concerned with freedom. Well, of course, even if that were the case...
Lord Monckton, hold on, I'm sorry. Most of the breaks are at the end of the hour and the start of the hour. If you can, if you've got to go ahead and leave us now, but I want to give out some websites and things and have one more question for you, and I want you to finish up on UKIP. Can you do a couple minutes with us on the other side?
Yeah, sure, will do.
Okay, great. We're going to go to break, come back with Lord Monckton. Then I promise